2 down, 1 to go. The Mario sports games on the Switch are an overall mixed bag. Mario Tennis Aces is without a doubt the strongest contender. Mario Strikers Battle League makes me bleed and I don't even have skin. But there's one more I have yet to talk about. So let's talk about golf. One of the more elegant sports of our unique world of balls. Regardless, it's super complex when it comes to general technique. For me, golf has always been a dark horse sport that I pay attention to in the background while focusing on my personal big three. I have a ton of respect for the sport and I've been paying more attention as I get older, and that respect grows day by day. But when it comes to Mario in the world of golf, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like there's a lot of wasted potential, mainly due to the low quantity of games and the appearances compared to Mario Tennis, because Nintendo fucking loves tennis in their sports games. I come to you from a classroom chalkboard. If you were born in 2008, I'm sorry if you don't recognize what that is. This specific setting may look familiar to those who've been paying attention. Homework isn't exactly necessary, but you'll understand the brief origins of this classroom. There's no class in session today because I am not a teacher. If you raise your hands, just know I can't see you, so if you have questions, they'll have to wait. And when I got here, I couldn't find the bathroom, so hold it in, cause we're gonna be here for a while. Nintendo's first attempt at a golf video game was for the world-saving NES back in '84, with Mario's weird dad. Think John Daly if he was born in New Jersey but voices a heavy as Italian accent. It sure was a golf game that was released in 1984. Next up, we got NES Open Tournament Golf, where we get the true debut of Daisy. Luckily, 1986 was a good year for her, but Luigi Ben had her for almost 40 years. Making our way to the GBA, we got Mario Golf Advanced Tour. I only play Mario Tennis Power Tour, the second best Mario Tennis game, but I believe the story and general concept is the same, just with golf instead of tennis, so I'm just gonna go out on a limb and claim this as the third best Mario Golf game. That's because we're moving on to the second best Mario Golf game in Toadstool Tour on the GameCube. Because this is a Mario GameCube game, it's going to be a very fun experience with friends, and one of the most charming games on the console, although I believe it lives in the shadow of Mario Party, Strikers, and even Smash Bros. Melee. It's still a great entry that set the standard for Mario Golf. Too bad it took 11 years for us to get the newest installment, but luckily I'd say it was worth the wait because Mario Golf World Tour exceeded the standard and set the bar even higher. Although there was a missed opportunity for Nintendo to give us a Mario Golf game on the Wii, considering they and third-party companies were addicted to making Wii accessories, including the Nintendo official made plastic golf club. We all know Nintendo loves motion control. It's part of the Nintendo constitution. DICE shall implement stupid motion control for no reason because DICE Wii was successful as Reggie Fils-Aimé, November 18th, 2012. We wouldn't see anything golf related until 2017 with the terrible Mario Sports Superstars. Sports Mix is its own thing and nowhere near related to this trash heap of a video game. Sports Mix is the father that was there for his child through and through no matter what. But no matter how hard he tried to keep his child on the right path, that child went on to do terrible things and led an awful life. And it was all their fault and was led to being disowned. Not even foster parents would look at them. Golf was one of the 5 sports that made an appearance, and I would say this is the most boring variation of golf we got. There's hardly anything that represents a Mario sports title, and it recycles nearly everything from World Tour instead of standing out on its own. Think if Mario was a playable character in a PGA game. Basically no Mario elements that make it more interesting. It's just cartoony Mario playing on TPC Sawgrass Hole 17. No one wants to see that. And then we fast forward to February 17th, 2021 during a Nintendo Direct. We would get the first look at Mario Golf Super Rush with some new ideas in hand. At first it looks relatively promising, but it left an empty feeling for me. I will give it the benefit of the doubt because this is the first time we're seeing this game, and there's time for those feels to develop. It's time for a new golf experience. Mario Golf Super Rush was released on the Nintendo Switch worldwide on July 25th, 2021. Now when it comes to reception, this game understands got mixed reviews. Metacritic 70 out of 100, GameSpot 7 out of 10, The Guardian 3 out of 5, Game Informer with a bizarre 8.25 out of 10, Games Radar Plus 7 out of 10, and IGN coming in with a 6 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie, my recent adventures have been in line with IGN and I don't like it. I couldn't find anything specific from these companies as I usually do, but we have some general critiques. We got high praise for the new speed and battle golf modes, chaotic fun, which is the Nintendo way when it comes to multiplayer focused games, games, as well as some insanity when playing solo. The praise continues with the new gameplay elements as well as motion control, which is surprising. Even some positive talk on visuals, which should be a given. This game looks beautiful. Although on the other side, we got some critiques that balance everything out. A lack of content, which includes minimal courses, characters, and miscellaneous features at launch. The main mode focusing around the golf adventure got mixed reviews, some praising the open world in general depth while others had an underwhelming experience, mainly feeling the adventure was too short, leaving them wanting more. It could be a lot worse because Battle League would release the following year, and this game is definitely not that bad. Now when it comes to sales, they were pretty decent for a game of this caliber. Super Rush was the best-selling retail game during its first week on sale in Japan, with 80,000 plus physical copies sold, and as of December 31st, 2022, the game has sold 2.48 million copies worldwide. It's no Mario Odyssey or even Mario Wonder in 23, but I don't think it's absolutely terrible considering what sports games we would get next from Nintendo. I'm sorry for constantly bringing up Battle League, but it's easy to put that game down considering that it's a terrible representation of a great franchise. But let's see what the next golf entry has in store for us. This is Mario Golf Super Rush. Alright, so booting up the game for the first time is something that I'm happy that I forgot, because I don't even remember my first reaction to this game other than the fact that the opening cutscene loads in insanely fast. It's not a bad thing. Some games don't even open at the start. You gotta read the terms and conditions. Like, why? This is a very enjoyable opening cutscene. It gets you excited for what's to come. Although the fact that this opening cutscene is only Battle Golf kinda makes it seem one note in a way. You know how the first two Strikers games and Sluggers opening scenes, there's a lot going on with every scene. I'm not saying Super Rush doesn't have that exactly. What I'm saying it doesn't have is variety, showing off all the courses, speed golf, and so much more to bring it all together, including the adventure mode. It's a good opening scene, the excitement is there, it's gorgeous and animated really well, but we're missing the core gameplay of traditional golf. I understand this is fictional, this is Nintendo, they want to focus on the new mechanics that they brought into the game, I get that, but you also have to remember that it's not just this variation of golf that we can play. We also have normal, traditional golf with no strings attached. But overall, it's a solid cutscene. Now when we get to the starting menu, I don't like that it uses the same music as the opening cutscene. That being said, the opening cutscene should have a more energetic and epic music piece to fit the insanity going on, and evolve the main theme we hear the entire time. I do like how upbeat it is, but it still sounds pretty generic. Nothing about this piece stands out to me other than it fitting the theme of golf. The main menu is super boring. It reminds me of Ultra Smash's menu. Obviously that's not a good thing. There's not much going on and it feels super standard and not all that impactful. It actually feels less than standard because there aren't that many options to choose from. So general first impressions are a little bit mixed. I see the vision, but I believe more could have been done to give us some flair. Let's start with Golf Adventure. In this game mode, we take our me on an underwhelming golfing adventure where we travel to different parts of the Mushroom Kingdom for some classic golf with a Mario twist. Partake in challenges and upgrade your player as we go. The general idea of this story is that we're a prodigy rookie ready to make some noise in the Mario Golf world. We start off with humble beginnings in a dorm, as well as Birdo claiming herself as Camp House Mama. This is Nintendo, ladies and gentlemen. They made this, and for some reason confirmed this. You know, it's even worse because Birdo isn't a playable character. We meet our supporting cast in Toadette, Chargin' Chuck, and Boo as a part of this rookie class. Chuck is the dumb brute, Toadette is a smartass, and Boo is always underestimated but just takes it like a champ. I'll be honest with you, I think Boo is a masochist. The biggest aspect of this story mode is that we play speed golf most of the time. We get introduced to this new version of golf through the tutorial sections at Bonny Greens. Afterwards, we have to compete in a real match, and that'll be our qualifier for the tournament. But that, let's just go straight to the Bonny Green tournament. Spoiler alert, Donkey Kong is somehow good at golf, we're on national television, and Rusty is the greatest Mario golfer of all time. Who the fuck is Tiger Woods? One thing I like about this opening tournament is the unique characters you can find that are participating. I'm gonna call back to this later, so keep this in mind. You can also customize your bag of clubs, as this allows you to figure out what playstyle you value. There are a bunch of different clubs that have their own effects. You can hold up to 14 clubs at once, but if you exceed the recommended number of clubs that you carry, your overall speed will go down depending on the number of clubs you're carrying. This matters because speed golf is the main mode we play, and speed matters. It's a really cool attention to detail they added, and I appreciate it a lot. You can also buy different attire for your Mii that have their own effects on the gameplay. You can even swap out clubs and attire whenever you want depending on the situation at hand. If only the adventure mode was a bit longer so they can go a little bit deeper into that, but this is what we got instead, and I guess it's fine where it is. Ridgerock Lake introduces us to special shots shots and cross-country golf. We eventually meet an old pro known as the Master Stinger. This very interesting character introduces us to unique clubs that have special effects and special shots. Apparently we're so strong that we can destroy a massive boulder by winding up like Asuka Kazama. That totally works, doesn't it? Now we're on to the Balmy Dunes. The hub world is more interesting than the entire course itself. The Balmy Dunes plays by a different set of rules when it comes to speed golf. We have to stay as hydrated as possible while playing as fast and efficient as possible, because instead of tracking strokes and keeping a par score, the fastest time wins. This is a cool gimmick because there's currently a heat wave going on and the locals clearly don't care about mortal life, so they allow gameplay at the cost of a heat stroke. We actually have to prove ourselves worthy of normal rounds of speed golf instead of just practice rounds, so the main goal is to stay alive while surviving the balmy heat stroke of 21. After a successful survival, we're ready for a 9-hole game. The general idea of risking your life during a golf game for possible bragging rights is something I can't possibly fathom. It's like saying you successfully completed an 18-hole game on a cruise with no net, when in reality you were playing mini golf the entire time. While we're playing the back half of the course, we come across a flood and we gotta deal with it, and by deal with it I mean watch a cutscene, and now we can play the whole course to qualify for a silver badge. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get anything from this. Now we make our way to the Wildweather woods. We have to prove ourselves once more while we're here, so let's see what challenges we have to take on. Similar to the last two areas, we start off with the 3-hole practice round and we work our way up. Although, before our next badge qualifier, we learn about a different type of shot that I always forget about in the lob. And we have to grab a lob wedge. Honestly, this is starting to get really tedious because we have to go all the way back to the Bonny greens in order to obtain it. I don't like that this item isn't automatically in the Wildweather woods or even in the Balmy Dunes, so it wouldn't have to be that long of a trip. Speaking of, we had to travel all the way back to the dunes in order to meet another master. This is the equivalent of annoying side quests in RPGs where you have to travel 10 feet to obtain an item and return item to said character who is literally 10 feet away. Luckily it goes by fast, so we get back to the woods, but we run into Wario and the garbage. God only knows why they're here and or what they're up to, but we get some vague messaging from them and I have no idea what's going on. We get word from God himself and we have to pass some trials in order to prove our worth. Electric themed target practice, a lob trial similar to what we had to attempt earlier, but instead we gotta work around this wall of geysers. In the last trial we have to fight God himself. These trials are very generic in its gameplay, especially the last one where we have to fight God. There's nothing that makes this more intense, no elements that make it memorable. Also it's super fucking easy. Avoid the pink and time your swings. I'm not saying this has to be Dark Souls levels of difficult, but at least have us at the edge of our seats. After we defeat God, we claim a lightning sword. So much for a normal golf adventure. Wario and the garbage walk up to us like the penguins they are. I don't know why they walk like that, it's really weird, and they're up to their usual shenanigans. After they leave, God talks to us and claims Rusty a hero. I expected nothing less of the king. God gives us a task to take on the almighty evil of golf, the Snow King, who aims to encase the world in ice. You know, as an ice user myself, I personally don't see a problem with it, but if God tells me to slay this king, my fellow hero Rusty and myself will do just that. I'm not a villain, I promise. Apparently, Bowser defeated the Snow King with the power of flame, which is literally just Bowser's fire breath, but that victory comes with a caveat that also negatively affected the weather. Heavy winds and pollen so strong it put Bowser to sleep, and he has yet to wake up. Who knew pollen could be so strong in a Mario golf game? Basically, we get a gift from God to defeat the Snow King, so let's go on and isekai anime this shit. But first, we gotta seek wisdom and power in the Balmy Dunes. This is the 3rd time we've had to come here, although we have an obstacle to overcome in the chaotic duo themselves. They try to take our mighty sword, but God comes in to put them down for a while. If only this game was rated T, then those two would most likely be in a coma. We collect the fire gem and we get Mario's version of Moltres that confronts us, and we have to deal with it because of course we do. A boss fight in a golf game. To think this is the 2nd one, I can't believe it. Would you believe me if I said it's super easy and not all that fun? Like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be super fucking difficult, but at least give us some sort of challenge to make it memorable in a way. I guess we can take on the Snow King now, but we gotta make our way to Mount Snow. Although in order to go, we need a gold badge. The woods can't host a tournament due to the insane weather, but there's a special match to take part in that'll help us out. We play some speed golf, but this time the winner is determined by score instead of time. Basically, we're back to vanilla speed golf, and there's not really much that went on in the Wildweather woods that had anything to do with the actual golf tournament. We got real competition this time around, Luigi and Donkey Kong. Finally, some real characters that exist. Yeah, I just said that about Donkey Kong. Once we win,
then we're off to Mount Snow. This place used to be the Bowser Highlands, but with Bowser falling asleep for 10 years, take a look at what happened. We melt the whole place down to its original environment, and now we continue with our mission. Although we still have to deal with ice and snow in a way. We have to team up with the Chaos Twins as we go. Luckily, God has a plan to keep these two in check, so we'll collaborate with them for the time being. After we finish the front half of the holes with our team, we gotta go with the Snow King alone, and this is our final task. We meet Mario, who saves our ass, even though we have God on our side. Mario gets trapped, and it's up to Rusty the Goat to save him. You know, Mario hasn't been in this type of situation since 2019, 2013, 2005, 2001, and 1992. He's been around the block a few times, we just don't know it. We meet the Snow King himself, and we're about to send him to an icy hell. The rookie versus the king. This is the best fight in the game. It's relatively challenging, you have to watch out for projectiles and manage your body temperature so you don't freeze to death. Overall, compared to the last two bosses, this is a nice final boss. We get promoted to the Platinum badge, and with that we have finished the golf adventure. One thing I find interesting about this mode is how it goes from vanilla golf tournaments to having to save the world. I'm not exactly against that idea, but I kinda wish we were introduced to this primordial evil in the beginning and had to work our way up to that evil. Either way, it's a fine experience, going from rookie to the savior of the world with golf god at your side. But that's just what we do from beginning to end. I have some more general words for this mode. All in all, it's not really an adventure mode. There's a lot wrong with how they formatted this. It's a glorified tutorial disguised as a story with character development and world building, except it's all fake. I'm not expecting Birdo to be the deepest, most complex character in gaming, but at least make them memorable in a way. We get introduced to Toadette, Chuck, and Boo, but as soon as we leave the Bonny Greens, we don't see Toadette for the rest of the game. Although throughout our adventure we run into Boo and Chuck, but they don't contribute anything in the long run. And this is before we meet God later on, so I guess it doesn't matter either way. Why couldn't they have joined us on our adventure to meet God and become the savior of the golf world? Golf God himself knows why, but we can't ask him that question, which is a shame, but I just don't get it. They build them up as support characters, but they're gone in an instant. You can say the same thing with Birdo. She's basically a Pokemon mom. She sets you up to leave the nest, and then you never see her again. The world building is non-existent. They try to make it work by having you do meaningless tasks, more so in the beginning of the game, but it all leads to nothing in the end. The gameplay is just normal golf. There's no stakes, nothing interesting going on. You just have to play a set number of holes a few times, and then you're off to do the next thing. The hub world is super barren and just exists to give the idea of a big world to explore, when in reality, there's nothing. All you can purchase are different clubs and attire. No items that can help your stats temporarily or items that help other elements of the main gameplay. The story brings in one plot just to drop it halfway through to introduce a new plot, and that's where you end the game. You either make it about a golf tournament or you turn it into a golf story with fantasy elements. It's possible to do both at once, but we already have that with Mario Golf Super Rush's adventure mode. They should have picked one over the other instead of choosing inconsistency. I would prefer a rookie to superstar plot similar to the GBA Mario Sports titles, as well as story and gameplay. Super Rush's adventure mode is a waste of time. You play it once and never touch it again. It flees your mind so hard it's easier to catch the Gen 2 legendary beasts. It's a shame that development time was wasted on this. I'm not looking for the Final Fantasy, Persona, or Chrono Trigger here. Just something that's memorable and brings the player back excited and wanting more. We all know it can be deeper than what it is. Super Rush's adventure mode is barely shallow. You might as well not make an adventure mode to begin with if it's just going to waste players' time. Also, you know how most games with flexible rosters like this show off most of, if not the entire cast in the story mode? Well, guess what? We don't see Princess Peach, Daisy, Rosalina, Yoshi, Bowser Jr., Pauline, and King Bob-omb. Not even once. They're not even mentioned through the useless dialogue. It kinda shows that the story had nowhere to go in the first place. We don't even get to interact with Luigi and Donkey Kong as they're just competition and nothing else. Let's move on before I go off like I'm talking about Battle League. We got gameplay to go over. To think I went this long without mentioning it, this is what I do, so let's get into some golf. The main goal of golf is to get the ball in the hole in the least amount of strokes possible. The lower the score, the better, and it soon all adds up depending on how many holes you're playing. You got a variety of clubs at your disposal that'll help you in specific situations, although you can use the putter for the entire match. Don't let anyone stop you. Let's take a look at the shot gauge. This determines how far your ball will fly after contact, as well as how you'll shape your shot. shot. Shaping your shot allows you to put a curve on your shot. Does it go left? Does it go right? Or do you want to give it more of an arc or hold it back a bit? You also got to take the wind into consideration, because depending on your shot and how you shape it, the wind could kill that great shot in a heartbeat. There's a lot to think about with every stroke, different elements that could help you or go against you. Another part of the shot is adding a spin to it, quite literally. Top spin, standard, backspin, and super backspin. Sometimes the spins can be inconsistent, but that mainly depends on the weather, the place the area the ball lands, and the shape of your shot. Another element you gotta pay attention to is your placement on the course. Depending on if you're on a slope, an incline, in the bunker, or rough, most of the time your shot may not go the way you want it to. You can balance out your shot so it doesn't curve like crazy, but it's up to you to make the call on what the best option is for you depending on the circumstances. The general gameplay is in between complex yet simple. The more you understand and experience, the easier and more clear it becomes. Okay, we got 5 different game modes to go over. I'm sorry, I lied. There's 4. I don't play this game online and I don't plan on it because regardless of how you play offline, it's the same just with real people. Standard golf is vanilla golf. Caddies are allowed, no running, none of that stuff. It can't get more vanilla than this. Speed golf is one of the 2 main modes in this game. Speed golf allows for the caddies to take the whole day off as we have to move our asses on our own. We can play speed golf by best score or fastest time. You can also determine start advantages, either some tee off before the competition or everyone tees off at the same time. This is a fun game mode, a great idea for a game of golf. It can definitely ensue a lot of chaos, especially if you have special shots on, which I don't. I think they're stupid. The animations are cool, but it really brings nothing to the gameplay in my opinion. Next up is Battle Golf, a special game of golf that unfortunately we don't play in the golf adventure. Hardcore missed opportunity. I'm so surprised that we don't do that at the end of the game. Everyone fights to the death over 9 holes in one single course at the exact same time. The first player to get a set number of flags wins. Another fun mode that can cause a ton of chaos. We got strategic and technical courses, although this is where a big problem for me lies. I wish there were a bigger variety of courses to play on instead of different variations of the same course. This mode is a lot of fun though, and worth giving a shot, no pun intended. The courses look great visually and fits this unique idea. It kind of reminds me of Marina Stadium at night from Tennis Aces. It's cool and it's fun, but the lack of courses really makes me wonder how far this mode could have gone. Solid execution, but wasted potential. The final mode is Target Golf, a mode that was introduced in the last known update of this game. Think of it as a Mario-fied Top Golf. You take turns trying to get as many targets as possible, and whoever has the most wins. Sometimes you'll get a special item that plays its own role with different effects and ways to change the game. 3 different courses with their own semi-unique designs. These kind of remind me of the Battle Arena and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, except there it's an action-based shooter while this is a golf game. It's not terrible, there are some obstacles you have to look out for, but most of the time they feel inconsequential. And I feel like having only 3 courses shows the amount of faith they had while creating this mode. It could be worse, but it also could be a lot better. The game modes in Super Rush feel 50-50. On one hand you got speed and battle golf that are a lot of fun, but sometimes these modes can get old pretty quickly. You as the player have to get creative with the rules and make things a lot more interesting gameplay wise for yourself. We also have solo challenges, but these are quite literally the most forgettable modes in the game, so I'm not going to waste my time going over what they bring to the product because it's nothing. I'd like to say we have a good roster, but that would be a disservice to the act of honesty and general objectivity. Super Rush's roster leaves a very sour taste in my mouth because it holds back for no real reason. But let's see what we're working with. Now usually in Mario sports games, characters belong to a certain category that shows us their strengths and weaknesses. Those archetypes definitely exist in this game, but it's not explicitly shown. So I'm just gonna go out on a limb and guess a few of these characters as some are more obvious than others. The base roster starts with 16 characters, starting off with our all-around squad, jack of all trades, master of nothing. This team belongs to Mario, Luigi, Daisy, Bowser Jr., Rosalina, and surprisingly, Waluigi. He's usually a technical character that focuses more so on his technique of the game, but his stats in Super Rush are very well rounded, so I decided to stick his dumb ass here. Speaking of technical, these characters prefer having control over their shots. Wherever they want the ball to go, it will land the way they want it to. At the cost of power, they may be on par most of the time instead of being under the scorecard. For me, only 2 characters belong here, Peach and Boo. They can manipulate their shots however they want, but I believe it's just these 2 and no one else. Next up is another pair of characters, except we only have one that came in for the base game, and that's the speedy characters. Weak in power, low stamina, solid control, but quick on their feet. The best picks for speed golf. Yoshi is the only base game character to crack this archetype, which is kinda sad honestly, because I feel like there's some other characters that should be here, but we'll get to that later. The next type is power. Most likely the best options for standard golf at the cost of control and speed, but they do have better stamina than some. Wario, Bowser, Donkey Kong, Charge and Chuck and King Bob-omb. Let's talk about some of these surprise characters. Charge and Chuck and King Bob-omb. I can't say I expected to play as a bomb in a golf game, but here we are. I do like their additions as they're making their Mario spin-off debut as playable characters. It's nice to have a little bit more depth here. Finally, we move on to a group of wild cards, characters whose stats are too good to be set in a normal archetype. They excel at 2 areas of the game instead of 1. Pauline and Toad in the base game, more so excelling very well with high speed and control. A few of these characters I'm a bit surprised aren't in a certain archetype even though it's semi-unofficial. I think Rosalina and Waluigi should have much higher control. Daisy, Toad, and Bowser Jr. could be fast as fuck. But we gotta deal with what we have. There's nothing we can do about it, other than turning the game off. Also, the Miis make an appearance once you beat the golf adventure. They come in with whatever stats you upgraded, although not with custom clubs or custom attire, which is a shame, but I like the accessibility, although there is something about the Miis that really leave me in a weird spot. The most playable Miis you can have at once is 3. You don't get to choose the Miis you have in your Mii Maker as playable Miis, instead of what it's like in 3DS games or Wii games or Wii U games. And that goes double for Switch games that allow you to use Miis from your Mii Maker and other Miis that you can share. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Mario Kart 8, for example. It's very interesting that you're limited on the number of Miis you can use, even though you can create as many Miis as you want, but you can't use those Miis unless you use them in adventure mode and complete adventure mode with said character. It's kind of baffling to me that we don't have the choice to use an unlimited number of Miis. Instead, we can only use up to 3. Let's go a little bit deeper into these characters because there's more to it. After you complete a course with any character, regardless of the number of holes, you'll gain points for that character. Once you gain 1000 points, you'll unlock a Star Club set for that character. This enhances their stats, more power and spin at the cost of less control. More spin allows you to control your ball pretty much however you want, and it can get pretty fucked in a really funny way. 3000 points gets you the Superstar Club set, which maximizes your character's potential in a way. Even more spin slots on your shot gauge, as well as more power. As the updates came and went, we would only get 5 DLC characters: Koopa Troopa, Wiggler, Ninja, Toadette, and Shy Guy. 3 of the 5 should have been a part of the base roster: Koopa, Shy Guy, and especially Toadette. What's the point of giving Toadette a supporting role in the first quarter of the golf adventure for her not to be playable when the game first released? Also, why didn't we get more characters? A total of 22 characters if you include Miis, mainly 25 if you choose to play as 3 Miis. But now it's time to flip the script a little bit. There are a lot of things in this world I don't understand. Most of them I don't care to learn about because they're irrelevant to me. But there's a recurring theme with most Mario spin-off games after Tennis Aces: the complete lack of characters. 22 characters and a bunch of whatever we got for DLC. Remember when I mentioned the Bonny Greens tournament in adventure mode? Well, I find it completely insane that they have the unmitigated gall to name off legacy characters and not even have them make an appearance, let alone make them playable. I believe we need a bigger roster, and we have it right here. Just to name a few names: the Koopalings, Monty Mole, Lakitu, Paragoomba, Paratroopa, Magikoopa, Spike, and there are some characters we haven't seen in literal years: Nabbit, Sumo Bro, Fly Guy, and goddamn Rocky Wrench. Yeah, this motherfucker apparently plays golf. That's not even all the characters. All 5 DLC characters make this list, and this was obviously before they made their playable appearance. It completely baffles me that we can get a full roster of names instead of the characters themselves. The characters that are vaguely seen make up 66% of the entire list. To me, these characters are illusions. What's the point of mentioning these characters when they are clearly allowed to join the fun, but you don't give them that benefit? There's a clear lack of care that went into this, and you can tell by the character selection alone. But guess what? There's more where that fucking comes from. These goddamn courses. We start with 6, and with DLC we finish with 11. Honestly, I don't get it. I just don't fucking get it. Not only is there a lack of courses, but only 2 of them pique my interest in a positive way, with the other 81% clearly a lack of innovation, creativity, and heart. Most of these do not represent what a Mario sports environment should be. The rookie course and Bonny Greens might as well be the same course with a different set of 18 holes. Ridgerock Lake is super annoying to deal with in the adventure mode as well as casual playing. The Balmy Dunes is drier than me, and I'm a fucking skeleton. Wildweather Woods is a worse Ridgerock Lake, and Bowser Bowser Highlands could be better, as I like the idea.
Let's dig a bit deeper into Bowser Highlands real quick. In the adventure mode, we get the concept of a fire and ice themed course. We've seen similar areas in past games, but when you play this course normally, you just get the fire variation of the course. The ice is all melted. You can only play the ice variation of Bowser Highlands in the adventure mode, and I fucking hate this. This is a big missed opportunity to do one of two things with this course during offline and online play. Either you get to choose between the fire and ice variations for all 18 holes, or half the course is ice themed and the other half is fire. You went on to consciously develop this idea, but you don't give us full access to it. That really makes me feel a certain way. I just can't believe it. Not only is it a really good idea, but it's something you clearly wanted to achieve, and yet you achieve it, but you don't let us play on this version of the course whenever we want. I don't get it, and it's frustrating.
Would you believe me if I said we're not off to the best start? Yeah, I wouldn't believe me either. I thought this game was good. There's nothing that screams Mario here. Yeah, you got Mario themed obstacles you have to avoid, but you can only see those on specific holes, and they're rendered moot if you're not playing speed golf. But luckily, when the first update was released, we got easily one of the two best courses in the game with New Donk City. Finally, I can fucking breathe. It's literally just New Donk City if it were a golf course, and it's insanely cool. Being able to choose beginner courses or pro courses if you want a challenge. This is what Nintendo is capable of. We know Nintendo has the creative minds to make some of the most memorable stages. I know the staffs were much different in the past, but what's wrong with passing off that creativity and knowledge onto the next generation of developers that work on your games? It feels like they're promoting mediocrity instead of taking time to create something that gets you excited or interested. Unfortunately, the quality goes straight down with the next three courses: Blustery Basin, Spiky Palms, and Shelltop Sanctuary. Now visually, these courses aren't terrible. I really love the sunset environment of Spiky Palms and the unique feel of Shelltop Sanctuary, but it sticks with the general theme of nothing interesting going on. No positive standouts. That's when we get the All-Star Summit. This is amazing. We need more courses that represent the entire Mario franchise, even if it's just characters on one huge course. Why don't we get more courses based on legacy Mario games? Galaxy, 64, 3D Land, 3D World, Mario 3, Mario World, and so many others. Bring back some of the great courses from World Tour, Yoshi Lake, Cheep Cheep Lagoon, Peach's Garden, just to name a few. This could bring more character, charm, and memorability as well as development care, because I feel like this game lacks that very specific element and many more. Obviously, we could use more courses that aren't generic, something that stands out on the same level as New Donk City and All-Star Summit. You see, this is why we can't have nice things. Most people can usually tell when a game is either rushed, never cared for, or both. The lack of courses and characters are clearly not enough. It seems like Nintendo had ideas to continue updating this game, but similar to most of their spin-off games on the Switch, they left it to dry after a while. But we have to remember, this is the Switch era of Mario spin-offs, so in order to keep consumers coming back, we get ourselves some free yet lackluster updates. Would you believe me if I said this game didn't last a year? Not even half a year. The game was released in June of 2021, and the last update was on November 23rd, 2021. All that for the game to stay as mediocre than it was at launch. Version 2.0 added ranked matches, which rubs me so hard in the worst ways. That sounds really bad. If you were to assume that I don't play ranked online, you would mostly be correct. For a game on the Nintendo Switch that heavily relies on Switch Online, you would expect this to be available at launch. Except it wasn't, because who the fuck cares? Toadette was the first DLC character, and we got New Donk City as the first DLC course. I'm starting to hate this game more and more as we speak. Version 3.0 on September 23rd gives us Koopa Troopa and Ninja. I like that we're getting Ninja in more titles. Please, for the love of God, do exactly what you're doing with Pauline and keep it up for Ninja. More appearances. Please. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, mainly because I don't remember, but this game launched with no way to choose CPU difficulty, and it was a part of this update. I can't even begin to fathom why CPU difficulty wasn't at launch. It seems arbitrary on paper, but it matters for solo players, mainly if they seek a challenge. They couldn't get that with CPUs if they decided to play against them and there was no way to choose their difficulty. Difficulty options should always be a necessity. To make the adventure mode a little bit more interesting, we should have had the option to choose the difficulty mainly for CPUs and the bosses. But tell me this, what's the point of caring if the developers don't? The final update, version 4.0 on November 23rd. We get our last DLC characters and courses, Wiggler and Shy Guy, Shelltop Sanctuary, and All-Star Summit. as well as target golf. 3 updates in the span of 6 months, and guess what? It all amounted to nothing in the end because no one cared for this game due to what the final product became. They put in minimal effort, minimum content just to put the game out at $60. Deep breaths, deep breaths. Don't go back to the mental hospital, you suffered through enough. At this point during the final update's launch, this game originally released as very empty and incomplete. If you were to take a guess as to how it finished, that's right, empty and incomplete. It doesn't matter whether or not new content was added. It's like baking a cake, but you use half the required ingredients, baked it for half the time, and served it as is. You're gonna get complaints and possibly a bunch of sick people, but as time goes on, you attempt to improve that cake just by decorating it instead of improving the actual recipe and trying again to make it edible. It's still underbaked to hell and tastes nothing like a cake. You might as well put a $60 price tag on that cake with a no refund policy. Yes, this game is a waste of $60 and should not have been priced as high as it is. And because it's a Mario game, the chances of catching it on sale are super low. Super Rush sets a good base for a possible amazing game. It just needs more work. I'm not saying this has to have the priority as a mainline title, but good God, at least put in the effort to make something memorable and exciting and show us that you care about the product you're making. Speed golf is a cool idea that can be capitalized on, but it never was. The lack of characters and courses hurts me because there's so much more that could have been done. Battle golf should have been evolved like crazy and could have been a great mode that's reminiscent of Smash Bros or Mario Kart, mainly when it comes to intense gameplay and chaos. We are in the era where Nintendo relies heavily on the online element of games. It's an insanely high priority for them in today's day and age. I understand that, but even this game doesn't do anything unique with that online element, mainly because no one is playing against others online, as well as there's nothing that stands out in an interesting way to separate online from offline play. It kind of shows that people bought this game out of excitement or curiosity and then dropped it permanently after experiencing what we got. If you want to play with other people, you basically gotta kidnap your friends, hold them hostage, and make them play this game to prove that they're your real friend. Although I did find someone on ranked. Give this player a medal of honor for being a good sport and consciously deciding to play this game online. And hey, not to flex, but I'm the 3,917th best Mario Golf Super Rush player of all time. Put me in the Hall of Fame for being in the top 4,000. Let's stay on topic when it comes to general critiques and things I don't like about this game. The longer I talk about this game, the lower and lower my score goes down. It's been a minute since I've given y'all a laundry list of things I don't like about a game, but this time around I got more negative than positive. Let's start with ranked. More so what you get for playing this mode. Basically, they locked different character variations behind a ranked wall. You can get different colored Yoshis, Toads, Shy Guys, the default designs of Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Waluigi, but these costumes are extremely limited in a way that it doesn't allow for other characters to have their own unique costumes. Why are the default designs locked behind online? Boo should have had the fucking visor from launch. Speaking of designs, I really like some of the golf outfits that these characters have, but if you're gonna give them to some, you might as well give them to all the characters. Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Boo, Chuck, the DLC characters, and all the other characters should have their own unique designs for this game, even if it's just a hat and a glove. For me, it's really annoying seeing a swagged out Wario and naked Donkey Kong. These next few critiques are just personal preferences I would have liked to see. I wish there was a way to customize all the characters, not just design, but give them special clubs, similar to the clubs you can use in the adventure mode. They all have their own unique gameplay effects, and that would make the overall gameplay experience a lot more interesting. I wish we could skip the CPUs playing speed golf after you complete a hole. I don't like that you're forced to watch the CPU finish a hole whenever you finish early in speed golf, especially when you're playing offline and solo. It makes the game feel super dragged out for unnecessary drama that doesn't exist. Normally when you get a good shot on the green, the announcer gives you your props for a good shot, approach, or gives you an excellent for putting your ball as close to the hole as possible. That sounds bad, but stay with me here. In speed golf, this could possibly ruin your placement. If you get a good shot on the green, the game congratulates you as usual, then you have to stay by your ball until the game allows you to hit again. I don't know why you can't just continue playing without any unnecessary pause. Also, during this, your opponents can interact with you when you should be in the middle of your shot, practically invisible. It kind of brings down the experience and drags it down even more than it should, and it can cost you the game big time, mainly if you're going up against higher level CPUs. This is mainly noticeable on smaller courses like Shelltop Sanctuary and New Donk City, but it can still happen at any time on any course in the game, and it throws me off pretty hard. I do wish there was a way to either turn off the announcer or just keep going without the interruption. The character animations for when you complete a hole are insanely boring and basic. They move for like a second and just stand there like lifeless dolls. There's no ambition or internal character when it comes to animation. The special dash and shot animations are nice, but once you finish a hole or a game, there's hardly any emotion or body language that shows off what that character is feeling. That's one thing Nintendo knows how to do super well. When your character celebrates, you feel it. Same thing whenever you finish a hole over par. Nintendo knows how to make characters charming through animation, but here, there's no passion. It feels like the characters are just here for the sake of a paycheck if they were real people. As much as I really didn't enjoy cross-country golf in adventure mode, because Ridgerock Lake is not fun to navigate, I will admit it's a really cool idea. Non-stop golf where you have to complete a certain amount of holes in one go, with a limited amount of strokes. I'm very surprised that this wasn't its own game mode. It would bring more depth to the already small list of modes we have right now. I just can't believe it's a mode they consciously developed but didn't make it its own thing for offline and online play outside of adventure mode. It seems like a waste of space because you experience it once and then whenever you blink, the game is over. Or you're playing a completely different game that's worth your time and money. Basically, cross-country golf should have been a mode that released at launch or as DLC or even after you finish adventure mode. Either way, it should be here regardless. And it really upsets me that they did not capitalize on this idea. Also, I realized this while I was playing, but Daisy isn't in the All-Star Summit. That really rubs me the wrong way because she's been a Mario icon and All-Star for literal years, especially in spin-off games. And yet we get Monty Mole and Paratroopa instead of Daisy herself. I'll be real, this does feel a little bit nitpicky, and it's nearly as bad as her not being a base game character in Battle League. This game, for how it released, should have been priced much lower than its base price. Even $30 feels like too much, but it's much better than getting less content at the cost of more money. Is Nintendo a scam? Well, Battle League definitely is, but Super Rush is a tease that leaves you feeling dry because it never did satisfy you to begin with. At least this game can be built upon for evolution. Unfortunately, that's not what we got. We got yet another unfinished product that forced free updates down our throats. It hurts like hell and I can't eat. Mario Golf Super Rush is very disappointing. I can give it some credit for having some interesting ideas, although not capitalizing on speed and battle golf makes me weak in the spleen. I believe this game has so much potential of being one of the best Mario spin-offs, let alone the best Mario Golf game, but it's in the lower half of the entire catalog. And I really hope that future Mario Sports entries take advantage of cool ideas and that they live up to their fullest potential. But the only way that can happen is if the developers actually put love and care into these games. They're important to the entire Mario series, one of the many reasons why Mario has been so successful since '85. I have hope because I know what Nintendo is capable of. At their peak, unstoppable, some of the greatest we've ever seen. Nowadays, there are a ton of cracks and holes that seem like they can't be fixed, and at times it feels self-induced. Regardless, at the end of the day, this game is really bad. Now class, I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. Also, if you run into the principal and tell them I broke in, you're gonna be labeled crazy because I can leave just like this.